No, see, strange.
Well, doing well, just trying to stay warm.
Yeah, it's a daggone shame we in Texas, and it feels like I'm in Michigan.
Right. 3 days
It's
ago, it was 80
winter.
degrees,
It's
though.
February. It happens every year.
It does, but I get tired of it. It's like you think you're getting away with it in you think you're getting away with it in January. It's like, oh, and then the first 2 weeks of February, oh, it ain't that bad. You figure about it, the 20th, oh, we didn't get away with a nice winter. Then what happens? It drops below 30 degrees and Texas lose their mind. Man, on the East Coast, if you sit back and you tell the kids they not going to school in 30-degree weather, the kids won't go from December to roughly the end of February. Here, oh my God, it's cold outside. Let's stop the kids from going to school. Really?
Is that what it is? Or is it the ice on the road that makes it extremely dangerous to drive around? What?
Come on, man.
I hate when people say that.
First of all, these people can't drive when there's no ice on the road.
Exactly. So when there is ice, we need to stay home.
No, if that's going to be the case, then you need to get people off the roads, period. It's the same number of accidents with or without ice.
That's not true.
Matter of fact, it's probably more without ice than it is with the ice.
Rain. Watch people spin out on that 635 bridge, 75, trying to go.
I'm sorry. I see several people here, Tiffany, I'm going to keep you out of this, that, got a little gray in their beard. And wife and I was talking, once there was a day you got your ass up in the morning and you slid downtown, because that's what you had to do. And we were talking about, I've worked 24-hour shifts just because the next shift couldn't make it in,
Right.
Dude,
look,
yeah,
I'm
now it's like,
Coast.
oh, remember the shine of the screens over here? Yeah.
Thank goodness it's 2022, y'all. Yes.
Hey.
I'm sitting on the East Coast with a convertible, driving to downtown DC, not sliding, not nothing. I just get into the wake of whatever truck that was in front of me and driving like a freaking expert. I get down here, it rained. Next thing you know, you seeing cars on both sides of the highway because these fools thought that they could do 70 miles an hour and it wasn't going to be an issue. Come on.
I've done that. Not that fast, but I've done it. We have terrible roads and it floods. Floods.
It does. Now, we got folks on the line. We got some smart people. What I need to know, give me some current events that you've heard of over these last couple of weeks since we were last all gathered together, because I want to hear some fun stuff before I get into my rant. Go ahead, Tiffany. Tell me about some cyber stuff that you've heard.
The only thing I talk about is that executive order that requires the federal agencies to have a zero trust plan by 2024. And we all know what zero trust is, authenticate and authorize. There's nothing trusted, and we can all do it. Right, JP?
No, come back to me. I don't want to be in that conversation yet.
No, that was it. Just zero trust. It's just something that a lot of people, I'm noticing the job descriptions now saying zero trust in the title. We're seeing it more in articles just across the board, and companies are all of a sudden have a zero trust strategy that they're selling to people. And I think it's great.
Okay, first of all, for everybody that's online, Tiffany, why don't you name some of the companies besides Cisco and F5 that are also supplying the government with zero trust services?
Why you put me on the spot like that? Palo Alto.
I'm not putting you on the spotlight.
I know it's on the list. Palo Alto. That's the only one I remember. It's Palo Alto, Cisco, and F5, because those are the ones I deal with on a regular basis. But give me a second.
Okay, so and while you finding the rest of it, let me go ahead and explain this real quick. Okay, Cisco actually controls the border routers and the core routers for most of the internet. So it's a freaking shame that an organization that could stop 90% of this traffic that we have that's coming in with malware is actually in charge, of helping the government do zero trust. Now, in my personal opinion, it's kind of like you're letting the foxes guard the hen house, because if there was money in stopping this, Jesus Christ, we have like the decade of the 90s, this could have been done. We have the decade of the 2000s that this could have been done. Okay. Oh, matter of fact, we have the decade of the 2010s, this could have been done. So here we are 30 plus years later, and you're going to ask Cisco to do something that they always had the power to do in the first place. But
They're incentivized to do it.
That's neither here nor there. Now, let's go and get into the zero trust thing. See, you started me on an early rant. That
I have the vendors now, JP.
Okay, go ahead. Cut me off.
Okay, Amazon, AWS, Appgate,
Lord, they don't
FireEye,
even know what security is.
Forescout, IBM, McAfee, Microsoft,
McAfee.
McAfee, awful.
I wouldn't let
awful.
McAfee walk my dog across the street, okay?
Okta,
McAfee ain't stopped the virus since 95.
they're
Okay?
terrible. PCmatic, Radiant Logic, SailPoint, Symantec, Tenable, Zscaler.
Symantec don't even know who their CEO is.
Well,
And
they're
Symantec
entrenched with the government.
And Symantec ain't stopped the virus since 1995 either. Matter of fact, I got more faith in PCmatic than I do Symantec and McAfee.
Good, so now we got at least one on, well, two, Cisco, PCmatic, we can agree with.
No, if you went through that, AWS don't care about security. AWS tell you in their own contract with you, hey people, I censored myself. Hey people, you are responsible for security because it's your own data. And yet still people think that Cisco is responsible for security and securing their own data, which is funny as heck. I
just put it in the chat. This is from Sped Scoop.
And what is IBM going to do? None of those many frame computers are going to help you with security. And QRadar ain't going to do nothing but frustrate the heck out of the SOC analysts.
Microsoft? Cisco and Microsoft were agreeing.
No, but Microsoft knows more about security than Cisco does.
Okay.
The best thing that Cisco does, they know how to spot talent and buy it.
Well, how does that translate to the customer?
They translate to the customer because they buy the best technology out there. They don't make it themselves, but they buy good technology.
Well, I mean, then you have to go into operations and support. So, and you can have the best technologies, but if people aren't actually utilizing it correctly and they don't have the people to support it.
Well, that's the whole industry. How many organizations out there sit back and buy, let's say Forescout, or matter of fact, let me even dumb it down even further than that. Let's go talk about CrowdStrike. How many organizations out there go and buy CrowdStrike, then they realize that nobody in the organization actually knows how to run it, and the company is too lazy to go get people trained so they can actually take care of their own environments? Because believe it or not, just because you have the product doesn't mean it's going to run the exact same way in your environment that it does in other people's environment.
Right.
And oh, by the way, here's a novel concept. I might actually want to know everything I have in my network, how it's configured in order to get my my endpoint protection actually running correctly in the environment.
Okta?
Yeah, we can talk about that too, but that goes into a whole nother brand of products that people have seen. Gartner, because most people do management by magazine article, and if Gartner says it's good, most of your executives just go and blindly buy it, and then 5 years later this thing is shelfware, because guess what? They didn't invest in the people because they didn't want the extra head count, which is a shame. 2, they don't invest in training people because, if I train my people, they're just going to leave us. And I've heard that so many times. And believe it or not, this is half the reason why I don't even listen to most executives when they go on there, hey, come celebrate me as I speak at this convention tour, because I've heard this from multiple people who do this convention circuit. Oh, we don't hire people to do that, and we don't hire lower end folks. Well, guess what? This is not 25 years ago. You better get all the young people you can as cheap as possible and let them grow within your organization so somebody can actually document that historical knowledge. Because what's happening, the baby boomers are retiring. Gen X don't give a F, okay? Because we just try and make our money before we get out. You got too many people that were working at McDonald's last year who are trying to get jobs this year in cybersecurity. So guess what? Those are the folks you better go. You better bring them in for about $55,000 and start training them up, because
They'll take less.
now that they smart and they actually went through.
If you want to not work,
I'm not talking about they went to my
If they were smart, they weren't working at McDonald's.
I'll take the 40K, bro. If you're gonna train me too, yes, absolutely. And then you can indoctrinate people, and they will stay for less than market rate in general.
Well,
Young
let
people
me
too.
say-
You
this
were
way.
talking
If
at
they
your
have-
son. It's a great opportunity right now for those who won't. After the, what was it, the great resignation of August of last year, it still just boggles my mind that as you go through McDonald's, you can tell the people have no training. They got them, they put them in, and and they're trying to the best they can to have a job. So yeah, there's going to be a flood of those people now 6-8 months later going to get back into the market, and I think they'll go into tech as opposed to management.
Well, everybody wants to be in tech, unfortunately. I want to get out, but ain't nobody gonna pay me to shake my butt and throw ones at me. So I really don't have that as an option. And unfortunately, I've been doing this for so long, I don't know how to do much else.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I stay in tech. I hate this mess. I swear to goodness, I feel like a kindergarten teacher. Every time I get in front of a client, I have to explain to them that, hey, guess what? The hackers out here don't care if you're a nice organization or you only do auto supplies. Guess what? If you make money, more than likely they want to breach you to get some of that money. And guess what? If they're running some thing that they running some type of malware generator that they pulled off the dark web, all they got to do is fat finger your IP address, and next thing you know, you're down, calling somebody to help get you back up. Hey, Brian, how you doing? We're going to bring you on to talk next. But what we're talking about right now is actual breaches or things that you've heard over the last month that fascinate you out of the news.
So JP, this is Brian North, by the way. First one of these groups have actually joined, although I've had my CISP for going on 1.5 years now. So I'm actually in a little bit different environment than a lot of y'all are. I work for Bell Helicopter, and we're actually doing cyber for the aircraft, all on embedded systems, which really means you got to get back to first principles for half the controls and design them and code them, because you can't go buy them. So it's a cross between, a traditional cyber role identifying threats and actually having to go design security controls and design a security architecture from the start of the program. So great to see you all.
Brian, that's and your platform you're mounting this in is an unstable thing that shakes in the sky.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, at least you're smart enough to realize that you have to throw security on top of something that may be snatched out of the sky or somebody takes the time to hack it. Unlike the car industry, who had a bunch of car engineers turn around and throw a network inside of the car, and then were surprised when somebody actually hacked into that network to take control of the car. I mean, I'm just saying.
JP, you'd be surprised how far behind DoD is with some of this stuff too. So
No,
it's not quite as bad.
No, first of all, I was a contractor for DoD and the ISC. Look, nothing surprises me at this point. I keep hearing the same things over and over again. Oh, we're really going to focus on security this year. And our illustrious president has spent $1.9 million to do something that they've been talking about since George Bush was the president.
Absolutely.
Okay? We are celebrating 21 years of FISMA. And what have we changed? We have a lot of paperwork, We have a lot of guidelines that nobody in their right mind outside of DOD has the sense to use. And then I am old enough and have used FSMA enough. I remember when it first came out. I remember the 826 when they thought self-assessments were actually going to work and people weren't going to lie about how bad the environment is, to go into the first 853. Now we have an 853 revision 5 that talks about privacy, in which case every control on there about privacy, and they were smart about doing this. They didn't create a whole family for privacy. They created controls and stuck them in the other families so people would actually have to at least look at it in order to answer. But here's the big problem. Nobody cares about privacy. They don't give a rat's tail about if your personal information is exposed. Next, the government can't even do FSMA. They haven't had 3 departments get over a C in the last 2 decades, which is sad. Because if you understand what George Bush did in 2006, George Bush said, hey, guess what? If you cannot, well, let me take a step back. The way the government works is their EA, you have to go and do a line item request prior to September, because September is when you turn over your proposed budget for the next fiscal year to the government. So you do a 529, which is a line item enterprise architecture list that gets sent. Well, within that enterprise architecture list, you come up with a system security plan that says, hey, we're going to buy this IT asset, and then here's our plan to protect that asset. Okay. When the next administration came in, and that would be the Obama administration, they turned around and told all of the people in the government, hey, don't worry about this. We're not going to do this to you. So what George Bush said is, hey, if you're too ignorant to be able to come up with how you're going to protect these information technology assets when we bring them in to these different agencies, you don't need to have the money to do it. So they were just taking line items out of people's budget, said, nope, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. You can't tell me how you're going to protect it. You don't need it in your environment. The next administration let all of the government agencies off the hook. Tiffany, tell them the last government agency that actually passed their FSMA quote unquote audit.
I don't know. The GSA?
Yep, you took GSA. Do you know how low down the government list you have to go to get to GSA? That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is, let's think about this. A lot of different agencies control critical infrastructure for the United States. Me personally, I live in constant fear, uncertainty, and doubt every day of my life as a citizen of the United States, because NIST came here 2015 and they were talking to people about critical infrastructure, water plants, gas, the transportation industry, the trucks and stuff that go back and forth. And this is what I heard sitting out in the audience. Well, I don't really even care about these things. Why are we worried about cybersecurity? Because that just seems like a waste of my time. I don't have the people even set up for this. Now, if you're a redneck and you're offended, you should be, okay? Because these people made you look bad that day, okay? Because they could not, in their minds, understand how important critical infrastructure is in the United States. And even worse than that, Texas really controls everything because we're the halfway point to the East Coast and the West Coast. Pretty much most of these cross-country trails, one way or another, come through Texas because one, we're like our own country down here. We have a little bit of everything. You want farms, we got farms. You want beef, we got beef. You want fish, we got fish. If you think about, gas, oil, a little bit of everything. If you think about it, we're like the pathway for every other economy in the United States.
And JP, we also have our own electrical grid. We're not part of the east or west grids.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that. We remember about our electrical grid from last February. That's not a good argument for that, Brian. Slap yourself on the left hand for that.
No, that's actually a good argument. We can't help it that they let a bunch of environmentalists in who thought we should go to wind power, you know?
No, that's not
When
what.
Forty-
We
that
haven't
ain't what-
upgraded our
your,
systems in
your
20
power
years.
goes away.
What are we talking about?
That ain't what happened, Chip. It
Yes,
happened.
it is.
Wind power is 40% of the Texas power grid.
That's
40%.
great.
And it failed during the Snowmageddon.
Is it because of the windmills or because they didn't properly protect them or upgrade them like they were supposed to?
It's because there was no
over-
wind and they froze up with no wind.
Right.
Well, also, it's also because the grids that they have are older than half the people on this call.
Like the Texas government has been talking about this, right? For like 20 years. They have recordings of them talking about our grid and how unstable it is, and we haven't done anything about it. But yeah,
Right. It's
environmental.
like everything else. Nobody wants to do anything until something fails. How many companies do you know of? They don't care nothing about information security till they get hacked.
Yes.
No, I'll wait. Go
Okay,
ahead.
but that's
I'll
not the point. Now you're off the point. The point was, it was the 40% wind power that killed us in Snowmageddon. Nice try.
wait. Look, it wasn't the wind power. It was the actual grid being old as dirt.
No. We're off topic. We can discuss another time.
No, I want everybody's opinion on that.
No, it's fine. Let's move on. Cybersecurity, critical infrastructure. No one's ready.
Well, we've known this for years. It's everything that people are talking about in zero trust are things that we've been talking about for God knows how long. Nothing has changed. Adding $1.9 billion to this effort means nothing more than those companies that you listed are all going to get paid for doing pretty much nothing like they've been doing for the past 30 years. Go for it.
Like, why do you think that's happened, that the zero trust thing has come up in the last couple of years? Like
Because
that
it's a marketing ploy. Just like a couple of years back, everybody was talking about the cyber kill chain. Okay, just like in every freaking demo that you do, hey, all of this works under a single pane of glass. Okay, every couple of years they come up with a marketing term and get these idiots that are sitting in these companies that claim to be CISOs to buy into the newest technology because there's a buzzword that sounds different than what it did a couple of years ago. So I'm going to buy into that product because it tells me it's going to give me something that I don't have. For, against, any arguments for that statement? Any arguments against that statement?
It's what the government does. Is they do anything that tries to make them look good without having to do anything.
So we don't think this is going to work. I mean, or change anything or shift this new zero trust stuff that's got out there. So it's just flailing in the wind. We're going to waste billions, trillions of dollars.
Yeah, I get it.
New zero trust?
Under 20 years, look, nothing changes in security. Until we get all the baby boomers to retire and get off of these executive boards and quit having the excuse, oh, I don't know anything about computers. Oh, I don't know anything about cyber. Oh, I don't know anything about technology. Once you get rid of half of that, you might start making strides forward. Until they start understanding that Russia, Croatia, they have people that are better than these so-called, oh, I'm a red team pen tester. I'm a blue team pen tester. Okay, you don't know jack. These people wake up in the morning in their war-torn countries and they walk in 9 o'clock in the morning to go and hack your system until they get off at 5 o'clock. Guess what? There's no rules for the way that they hack. Okay, while we're sitting back talking about, oh, we can't hack people back. We can. You know why we can't hack people back? We're not good at anything. We always yell, America number one, America number one. What are we good at? Our education system is trash. Okay, trash, absolute trash. Don't get me on that rant. I feel like Dennis Miller, but anyway, it's just we have a stupid mentality towards everything. We don't believe in anything until it happens to us. There have been pandemic after pandemic after pandemic that people have suffered with overseas. Oh my God, a couple of people cough, 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 sneeze, 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 and we have a pandemic over here for the first time in almost recorded history since the Spanish flu, and everybody loses their mind. And it's just ridiculous. Until it happens to us, we don't believe it exists.
You know this is being recorded, JP.
Yes, and I haven't dropped one F-bomb yet. Hooray for me.
Oh, yeah. Any other thoughts, or everyone agrees with what JP is saying?
I'd say that after it does happen to us, give it a week and we'll have forgotten all about it.
That's even worse.
That's why we need all the logging and monitoring and SIMs and McAfee curator, right?
Why? We don't have people that can read it.
That's what the AI and machine learning is for.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out. That's what machine learning is.
And I do agree with JP. He hasn't dropped one F-bomb yet.
Thank you, Chip. So magnanimous.
Thank you, Chip.
Anytime, anytime.
You know what? And that kind of reminds me. So how are we feeling about all of this cloud stuff? Because part of that executive order, it talked a lot about shifting a lot of the assets to the public clouds and how they're going to secure that. We know that the public clouds are pretty secure, don't we?
You said that with a straight face.
Yes.
Hey, you're just winding him up.
And so Tiffany just dropped the F-bomb.
No, she dropped the S-bomb because
I'm
nobody
sorry,
believes nothing.
I'm
is
sorry,
secure.
the cloud bomb.
Oh, okay.
The C word. Ooh. I mean,
Although that movement over to the cloud is what's
The
pushing
clouds
their
pay better than
concept.
the government does.
Well, moving over to the cloud is what's pushing their zero trust concept more. But if they don't pay attention to security like they haven't in the past, it doesn't matter if you change the name of it. You still have to pay for an implementation and actually test it.
Well,
At least they have the budget.
Hey, Ron M., what is your last name?
McKinney, like the city.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get on that real quick. We're talking about cloud security, which is the beautiful thing. One of the smartest things they ever did was implement FedRAMP, so you can at least make like somebody was concerned with security. Here's the big problem, and I hate using this example because even I got tired of hearing it as an example on security. Everybody that's old enough to remember when what's the name of the idiots? Target got breached. When Target got breached, did anybody actually realize that they were on AWS when they were breached?
is that AWS's fault?
No, because they contractually said that crap ain't our fault. If you don't know how to protect your system, that's on you. Love that part of it. But this is how good AWS is at marketing and media relations. Their name did not even come up in that breach. When they were the thing that the hackers traversed from that little AC company to get to Target.
Well, now wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
I mean, it's still not my fault if you didn't put the security controls in place when you put something on my network. I can't help that. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, what does the contract say?
HVAC.
Was Target contractually obligated to safeguard their own system, or did Amazon Web Service decide to take that liability on? It sounds like they didn't, otherwise their name would have came up. So Target probably didn't do what they were supposed to do. Is that the case?
No, that's BS. Here's why it's BS. First of all, you have these small companies that have these contracts with large companies. What some of the banks do when they work with these small banks, when the large banks work with these small banks, they make sure that they have security controls in place to lock down the smaller banks because they know that the smaller banks' security baselines are garbage. So what they do to protect themselves, when these smaller banks connect into them, they put the safeguards in place so they don't get hacked, which just goes to show you the immaturity of their cyber hygiene at Target, because they let a small company be the transport system to get malware in the first place. And then let's not forget, they knew they had been hacked, but they didn't tell anybody they were hacked because people's bonuses were tied to the fact that they saved money over the course of that fiscal year, and everybody was due a bonus due to the money that they saved not spending on security.
So no,
Look,
this was not
so
AWS.
it's not about the fact that AWS was a transportation method. It was about the fact that there are no safeguards within AWS. You are totally reliant on the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the people in your environment to protect yourself. They're just doing nothing more than giving you the transportation method to do whatever you do in your business.
Unless, of course, you're Capital One, in which case they have an ex-employee use a back door to get into their systems.
or the lady that worked at AWS that was sneaking in her different clients' accounts and pulling out information.
Yep, that was Capital One.
Where's your DLP?
They might have a DLP. Who's looking at it? See, the problem is people buy all of this crap and nobody looks at it. How many open Splunk positions do you see come up? Never. Because the people that know Splunk, they ain't letting these folks go anywhere. Why? Those are the only people that know how to look into the daggone logs and tell you what's in them. I mean, let's be honest. When was everybody online right now, when's the last time you saw a position specifically for Splunk, which most of these major enterprises have? I haven't seen an open position in Splunk for, good gracious, at least 5 years. It's just like Archer.
I do.
All these companies bought Archer. When was the last time you saw an open position for somebody to be a GRC architect and they were using Splunk? I mean, Archer. Doesn't happen because the people that have Splunk and Archer in their environment don't do anything to piss those people off enough to make them leave because they know.
Are you serious? Splunk? I've worked in an environment with Splunk and they do everything they can to run people off.
Yeah, but apparently they're paying people enough money to keep them there. And 9 times out of 10, if they are looking for Splunk people, they're going to add a couple of extra things to it to bring people in.
Zscaler. JP, you know about Zscaler? They're on the list too.
As far as what?
The zero trust vendors that the government's going to test out.
Look, you know how I feel about zero trust. And I've always said it was a marketing ploy. Nobody wants to believe that, and that's fine. You are free to have your own opinion. I don't care.
Let's not call it zero trust. Let's increase our security posture.
Okay, here's my thing. Here's my thing. Is anybody else online right now than a member of the military? So it's just me. I was the only one.
Gerald, but he's on mute. He was.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, so I was the only dummy to volunteer to be a bullet catcher. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about zero trust.
When it was JP, when it was my time to volunteer, we were still in the middle of Vietnam.
Oh, so you didn't want to take the vacation over.
There weren't no volunteering going on then.
Well, then you're one of those baby boomers he was complaining about.
That's right.
No.
How do you spell security?
He is not one of the baby boomers that's sitting in these organizations on the executive board talking about, oh, I don't understand technology. That's what I pay other people to do. Oh, that's not Michael.
I thought you were complaining about baby boomers in general.
No. I got too many of y'all old folk on the line right now to be complaining about that. No, but basically, if you've been in the military, you realize what zero trust is. What you had in the military, you had a separate network that basically was responsible for transporting the data on that network, okay? You didn't hook in the internet and then expect your stuff to be secure. That whole separate network, and you will, if you understand and you've been in the military, you know what NIPRNet and you know what SIPRNet is. They don't have those things traversing the internet. Why? The second you connect something to the internet, you're no longer secure. So to tell me that zero trust is a smart idea, it's pie in the sky at best. You want to make sure that there's zero trust, guess what? Disconnect your network from the internet and then we can start discussions. Then we'll start talking about shadow IT and how all of your developers are now connecting to GitHub, because I can't get any tools if I don't connect to GitHub. I can't finish my development unless I get to GitHub. Okay, when you disconnect from the internet, then we can start talking about zero trust, because you can't talk both.
We changed it to just increasing the security posture by a little bit.
No, but they haven't changed the buzzword, Tiffany. That's the whole point. It's the buzzword that I find offensive.
Okay, let's make a movement to change it.
And then and as far as let's bring in zero trust. I mean, let's lock down the government. We've been saying this for how long? So see, and then I just said about FSMA, because FSMA is 21 years old. There was JISRA before it was FSMA. You know what JISRA was? JISRA was implementing security controls so we could lock the government down. So the government computing assets could be locked down. Yeah.
How did that work?
It's working as well as zero trust. Now you tell me how it works.
It didn't.
Exactly. And see, the reason, and all the old heads that's on here will sit back and tell you, they do this so they can generate money and basically, what do you call it? Give companies government subsidies under the guise of, we're going to lock down the internet. Now, okay.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat right now. Okay. I'm going to go straight conspiracy theory on you. There is no way, no how any organization that does security is going to lock down anything. Why? There's too much money into letting these fools get breached. Why? Company gets breached. They call a Mandiant. Mandiant sit back and they put their usual 10 people on the case to tell you stuff that you already know if you have people in your environment to read your logs. And guess what? They walking away with $1 million. Why? Because most of these organizations don't have their own internal resources to do incident response. That's one. Two, your cyber insurance. And for those that are online, we're going to do a talk on March 29th about cyber insurance with Sanomi, myself, Will Burchett, and Kurt, I want to say his last name is Sua. Anyway, so I'll send that out so everybody can get a look, see at that. But there's too much money in stuff not being secure. You will never, and right now, all of you people that are under 40, you will never see anything in terms of security ever implemented across everything. As long as FSMA has been out, the first thing that I hear from people is, oh, we don't use this. We use the CIS. Oh, we use the SANS Top 20. Why? Because it's the low-hanging fruit. It's something easy for them that they halfway understand. Okay, I had a friend of mine tell me the other day, his organization that he contracts with said that when they got to this control in this that was talking about mobile code, okay, their answer to that was, oh, we have an MDM solution. Now, let me go ahead and break down those acronyms for people real quick.
Device management?
Right, mobile device management. Now, if you understand what mobile code is, they're talking about PowerShell and scripting, okay? One has nothing else to do with another, okay? Does anybody on here remember the Home Depot hack? You remember when Home Depot got hacked?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Do you remember what Home Depot's response to this is? They got hacked and they bought all of their executives Mac laptops because the Mac laptop is less likely to be hacked than Windows.
Yeah. And guess what got first hacked?
Funny, every time I go in there, their phones don't work, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, that comes from another problem, because what also used to happen is you had people that would walk in the Home Depot and they didn't know how to lock down their what do you call it, Wi-Fi. They didn't know how to lock down their Wi-Fi. And if I'm not mistaken, some hacker told them that they didn't segment off their Wi-Fi from their corporate network or their cash registers. So what would happen is you could walk in, traverse their Wi-Fi, get to their point of sale system, and actually see every transaction that was being made in that store come over whatever tools you wanted to use. Okay.
Yeah, that was Michael's too.
Well, guess what?
Wait. So their cash register and point of sales was on the same Wi-Fi network as just like the general Wi-Fi, like it wasn't a separate.
Yes, because people we're not segmenting stuff then.
Well, in
Oh,
the case of Michael's, they were used in web.
Which is even worse.
Oh boy.
See, here's the bigger problem. The reason why a lot of these networks are garbage, I mean, reason why a lot of security is garbage, because the networks are garbage. In the 90s and the early 2000s, we had a generation of networking folks that knew nothing more than how to go into Windows and do certain things on these Windows servers. They didn't really know how to go into PowerShell and block certain things off and to lock certain things down, because if you had gotten a certificate or you had your MCSE, you were a hot commodity and people just hired you. Nobody in-house was smart enough to be able to know whether you knew your stuff, because the technology was so new and everybody was transferring over. And oh, by the way, while that was going on one end, you had the internet boom. So you had all these internet companies that were popping up everywhere, and you had organizations that had people that were CTOs and CIOs and CSOs and whatever three-letter title that began with a C. Those folks came in. Companies failed and went the way of the internet companies, but those executives turned around and got jobs at these other enterprises. So the folks that were questionable with their skills in the 90s are now running major organizations now with little more knowledge than they had back in the 90s. And oh, by the way, most of these networks were built back in the 90s, and folks are now trying to retrofit security on top of that instead of just doing a complete rebuild, because these networks weren't built for the technologies that are out now in terms of networking and or security. Now, we did this little exercise to go to a point that I like to call what grinds my gears. Now, to understand what grinds my gears, it's basically a bunch of different hacks, exposures, and other things that have happened that we now have to look out for as security practitioners, because if we don't look out for folks, no one else will. Hey, Mark, I didn't see you sneak in. All right, so smartphones with embedded malware target bank info. All right, for those of you who are old enough to remember, about 10 years ago, there was a piece of malware called Zeus. Zeus was a Trojan that was passed through iOS as well as Android devices. The way that it was passed through, as the Apple Store and the Google Store started scanning development things and applications that were being placed on their stores for security reasons, the hackers who are ever vigilant were smarter than both corporations. What they did was, oh, you guys scanned the application itself. So what these guys did, they made like low-cost versions of Cut the Rope and Angry Birds that basically were Trojans. So they would place these things in the Apple Store and in the Google Store, and then what would happen when they did the update, that would pass the second half of the malware, which did nothing but put a token on your phone or mobile device to sit back and wait for your dumb tail to go into your bank account, and then it said, hey, I already got the ABA number. All I need to do now is to get the corresponding account number to go with that. And then they would actually pull off what's known as a salami attack. For you people under 40 years old, what a salami attack is, you go into a bank account and you pull a little bit of money that nobody notices. And you keep pulling out a little bit of money till nobody notices. And then you say, the heck with this, let me start hitting for 1,000 at a time until you liquidate the account. Now, for all of you folks that are, like I said, under 40, one of the things that caused, more than anything else, larger organizations that don't, or individuals that don't pay attention to their bank accounts and not tracking it on a regular basis, usually a few $1,000s have gone out of the accounts prior to anybody figuring it out. And it's not like it is now where people have gotten dumbfounded and used to identity or used to money being liquidated out of your account. This was in the early days when you really had to prove to people that, one, you didn't spend the money, two, that somebody actually went into your account, three, there was no way that you could have been in Russia at the time that money was taken out of your account. So totally different time. So fast forward. Let's get into this. An online smartphone app was recently found to contain a particularly nasty app which contained xenomorph malware. The specialized form of the malware was depicted as a smartphone cleaner, which would allegedly, so now what are we talking about, folks? We're talking about another Trojan. Also, it allegedly speeded up the phone by removing junk files. In reality, the app was a Trojan horse, like I told you, called Alien, that was designed to download a second Trojan, which would sift through the phone for accounts and passwords used to log into financial institutions. The app had been downloaded 50,000 times and affected customers of 56 different UK banking institutions. Now, let's go back a second. This is a teachable moment. First of all, how many people thought that you couldn't get hacked on iOS? Come on, I know some Mac people out there say, no, they can't hack my Mac. Okay, so let me go ahead and tell you, BS. When people tell you you can't get hacked on Apple, you can't get hacked on iOS, it's stupidity and naivety and just out and out ignorant. Anything that man makes can be hacked, okay? Once again, anything that man makes can be hacked.
Apple's made a lot of money out of saying that their stuff can't get hacked.
Yes, that's true. And what they also do is every time they get hacked, they end up announcing a new product that's coming out or a new update that's coming out to distract from it. You remember earlier when I made the statement talking about media relations? This is when you have a good media and marketing department. Okay? Because how many of you people even knew that this was something that was affecting anybody? Nobody, because nobody sits on LinkedIn and read all of this crap that I put out in terms of what grinds my gears. I put this out for people to know what's going on just because a lot of folks don't hear this on the news. Unfortunately, because you got to geek it up every now and then. The only time folks get interested in security is when something gets hacked. So I like to throw out that this happens 3 to 5 times a day, every day. I get to the point where I get tired of putting out what grinds my gears. But anyway.
So JP, there's some other interesting stuff that most people don't get to read about. There are a pile of vulnerabilities that have been exposed on aircraft that always get tied up under NDAs when they get fixed. They don't get reported.
Oh, well, actually, they some of them have been reported. There was a guy.
There have been CVEs that have been reported. I can tell you there's a lot more that never have been.
Well, and you're absolutely right, because in the case of some of the hardware that's on planes, a lot of that hardware is actually specialized equipment that exists nowhere else. Also, if you understand what happens when a plane lands, okay, for you folks that want to really be scared the next time that you are on the flight, that aren't already scared, what happens is once the plane lands in, all of that flight data that happened on the flight, all of that black box information and everything, it used to get pushed unencrypted. Now, I'm gonna say used to, doesn't mean that I'm right on that. Okay, it still may get pushed unencrypted. However,
Do,
there
yeah,
was
do a wireless network scan the next time you're on an airplane when wheels touch the ground.
no, Brian, no, I'm not. Because you're telling me inside information about flying helicopters, and I wanted to
No, this isn't helicopters. I'm telling you, this is stuff that happens on the commercial airline.
These are commercial fixed wing aircrafts, and we're gonna have
Yep.
some men in some dark suits some men and women in dark suits happy to meet us when we
No,
disembark.
no,
right?
I said scan for networks. I didn't say connect to them.
But
We'll get some new
but you know what?
get some new bracelets
Hold on.
for our
Both,
trip.
both of you guys, look, it sounds better if it's coming from somebody else other than me. Ron, go into it, please.
Oh no, I was just wondering. So that sounds like a good way to make some new friends. And yeah, that's all.
No, you should avoid. You should always avoid doing anything you shouldn't be doing. But yeah, there's lots of vulnerabilities that still exist out there. A lot of which have been patched in multiple different ways. But you know, it's interesting. You get to read about all the stuff that's happening. You know, especially on devices that everybody owns. But most of these aircraft actually set on a couple of different real-time operating systems, like something from Green Hills or something from Wind River or something from Lynx, that are all really versions of Linux that have been spun off a long time ago. Some of them have been hardened, but a whole lot of the vulnerabilities that you see pop up other places actually occur on critical systems that you wouldn't think of.
Brian, you can't hack Linux.
You're funny, JP.
No, I'm just telling you things that other people tell me, and I just have to sit there and roll my eyes. Even though you can't really see my eyes right now, trust me. They
really
roll.
say that?
Yes. Please, anybody on here, am I lying about that?
You're not lying, JP.
Okay.
I worked at UT Arlington in the information security office. I actually had this argument with a computer science professor, and I was like, "Really? And you're teaching people?" And I almost cloned his system just to prove him wrong. But yeah, definitely. Even the people at the educator level were making that problem mistake 10 years ago.
Yeah, but when's the last time that academia actually did anything real for cybersecurity? I've hired a couple of cybersecurity engineers here lately and realized that maybe I need to go find double E's and comp sci guys that are interested in learning it.
Wow, that's cold, Brian. That is really cold.
Like I said, I'm a little bit different environment. We're designing it. We're designing and developing solutions, not buying somebody else's and implementing them. You have to be able to figure out at a deep level the actual data flows and how controls actually work, not just pick somebody else's control and decide to implement it.
Are you saying you're not allowing these guys to go out to GitHub and download somebody else's code and then work with that?
So also work in defense, and there's a whole lot of reasons why open source code might not be good.
Hey, I came from that world. So one, at the time I was in the military, we weren't allowed to buy anything that wasn't manufactured in the United States. And two, we weren't using open source code because you didn't know where the code came from.
You
You
got
could
it.
have somebody that said, oh, well, this code came from Mexico. Well, guess what? It didn't come from Mexico. It came from somewhere in the Eastern Bloc.
And the GPL licensing agreements really don't align very well either. So
Right. You got people that's all pissed off and say, nope, we're not going to use Kaspersky in our environment because Kaspersky was made in Russia. Well, guess what? Kaspersky has found more viruses since 1995 than McAfee and Symantec combined. But here's the problem. They know how to stop those viruses because those people from Russia made most of them.
well, they might also be well aligned with GRU, so it might be a good reason not to let them on all networks.
That is true too. I'm not saying that I agreed with not using Kaspersky. I just said that Kaspersky finds more viruses than McAfee and Symantec combined.
Hey, at home they do a pretty good job. So
yeah. All righty.
Great way to stay
Next.
gainfully
So,
employed.
Oh,
So,
wait a minute. We never finished about talking. We never
So,
finished
hey,
about
hold
talking
on.
about those systems
hold on,
the
JP.
planes.
Yeah, and that's where I was going, right? So, Brian, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, and if Bell Helicopter is stopping people from going to GitHub and stuff like that and copying and pasting, then that's great. But there are a lot of defense contractors out there. JP and I used to work for one.
Just go look at
and-
my LinkedIn profile.
and
You'll get out.
I actually did something very similar to what you're kind of talking about, right? So I know all about the homegrown systems, the controlled interfaces, all that stuff, all the stuff that goes into aircrafts and things like that, right? So that was part of my job, and I can tell you for a fact that people go out and they may not import open source, but they're going out to GitHub, they're going out Googling whatever, and they're copying and pasting code. So, if Bell is stopping that somehow, then fantastic, right? But even most defense contractors are doing that, right? They may block GitHub or whatever, right? But they're not stopping the copy paste. And
Yep. So
And they're
Leon,
not, and they're not
Leon,
stopping.
yeah,
They're not
I
stopping
agree.
what people do at home and take into the office, because they still are bringing stuff in.
I agree. It doesn't completely go away, but it is definitely greatly
No.
minimized.
yeah, absolutely. You're correct, right? You can never get rid of it, right? So, I've been on presentations and stuff like that, right? And they say, or quite honestly, I've been in board meetings, right, at work, and they'll say, well, this was a closed presentation. Nobody has that information because we disabled screenshots on Zoom or or Teams or whatever app, right? And my question is, okay, what about someone that took a photo on their phone?
Yeah. Once it's out there, it's out there.
So yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, all any of us can do is try to lessen the blow. You're absolutely correct. I just, I was curious. I mean, like you said, listening to you, I mean, I used to work on those systems, right? So I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to be in the Air Force as well. So, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, across all the services with the push towards MOSA, modular open operating systems, there is a lot more temptation to pull a lot more information from, because we're using every open standard we can. There's a lot more people that would think about pulling information from lots of different sources, but we've also really upped the amount of work we do with auto-generated code based on model-based engineering, which slows some of that data from coming in from other places. We've also done some other work to try to ensure that how the data comes in is controlled and the level of reviews everything has to go through.
Hey, all right. So before you go back to the breakdown of what's going on with these commercial aircraft, quick story. I worked for one Beltway Bandit, which is, code for government contractor, okay? Worked for one Beltway Bandit, and I was a IT auditor. So I'm at a military installation looking at code for this in-house developed app. So I go and scan the code, and while I'm looking at the code, mind you, I haven't actually did development since high school and college. When I'm reading the code, and in there, it says the name of one contractor when I know clearly this was developed by another contractor. And then, I pull over the program manager and I ask him, I said, am I missing something? Is this working in partnership with said vendor? What do you mean? Well, I'm looking at the code, and inside this code, it says this company, and I thought we all work for this company. And the guy said, I don't know how that happened. So he calls over the developer, and the developer says, hey, well, this was a program that I developed at the vendor, and I decided that it was good enough, and it was so similar to what we're doing now, I brought it over. Now, for you folks that are not fully understanding this, when I was talking about Nipper and SIPRNet, those are basically segregated networks in the military, okay? So when you have a clearance and you work for these organizations, you have something that's known as the high side. Okay. What the high side is, it is a development network or a segregated network, excuse me, that is not on the regular internet. Okay. There is really rules in place that you don't bring anything from outside of that network and place it on the network, because you're not trying to get it infiltrated through a whole bunch of stuff. So just the sheer fact alone that he walked this in to that area and placed this code on there, he was dead wrong for that and should have been fired on the spot. However, certain folks can get away with certain things, and we're not here to talk about that. Brian, continue, please, and tell folks about this scary stuff that folks have to worry about the next time they get on commercial airline.
Yeah, real quick, and Brian, I do want you to go ahead, but I just want to interject here real quick and say, we got 16 participants on the call right now, and those that have been here since the beginning and have hung around, or those that are just joining and that have hung around, yes, this is an absolute kind of comedy sketch hour, if you will, right now, right? We are just sitting here BSing back and forth, but I do appreciate you guys sticking around, because while we're sitting here BSing, there are a lot of points that JP brings up and the other people bring up that you need to pay attention to for cybersecurity. So this isn't just a bunch of, I just want to put it out there. It's not a bunch of old people just sitting here griping and BSing. There is very valuable information here. So I appreciate everybody sticking around.
Oh, we got other stuff, Leon. The point is, the side conversations was so interesting that I was enjoying it and was letting people, get it off their chest.
Hey, Leon, I hate being called an old person.
Oh, there's always one. There's always one. There's always one. Listen, I don't like being called an old person either, but hey, the truth hurts.
Are you saying there's always one old person?
No. I'm just saying there's always one person that I'm offended that you're offended, right? So it's all right.
So rather than diving into depth kind of on aircraft, let me ask everybody a question. How much did the Log4j topic that just came out recently hit y'all?
Oh my gosh.
Didn't affect me.
Did not affect us. We are, one of our vendors is updating a Log4 net DLL. But again, the base software was not affected. The matter is could something be hacked and then find that file and make use of it? That's why they're getting it updated and changed out. So there were different hacks on the Log4 products, and that were exposed, and there was a lot of research by various vendors into their software products as to how much exposure they really had. And the biggest place that you got it was, I believe, through the Apache web services, that it was easy to inject a improper URL.
Ron?
So the only reason I bring that up is in this one, I'm sure is going to be talked about a black hat at some point, but so I'm not going to go into the full depth of it, but there are multiple different flying platforms from multiple companies that have Apache installation someplace around all their manuals and tech pubs. And a lot of those systems, because they get into the being flight safety critical, you can't just roll patches out. Things have to be tested. It takes a long time to get to that point. So one of the problems with aircraft is vulnerabilities. They've got to get patched, but you can't turn around a patch quickly a lot of times because you've got to get through either a military or an FAA airworthiness process in order to be able to roll that software out on a platform.
I will say that the vendor that is updating their Log4Net DLL, that is something that they stated is that when their first attempt at upgrading to a more recent version broke everything.
And correct me if wasn't that actual file? I mean, wasn't that actual update like 2 or 3 years old?
Yeah, but so is most of the base operating systems of IoT and everything else out there.
And I get that, but it would seem to me, okay, and this is just me spitballing. If you know that you have these updates and they're 2 or 3 years old, and just from the simple fact that Java is kind of like an open source thing anyway, you need to have a configuration management team that does nothing but test this stuff for updates, because 2 years is long enough for it to be patched. That's not even unreasonable to ask for something to be patched within 2 years.
Yeah, but Brian, you can speak to this, especially in the avionics world. And by the way, I'm well familiar with the avionics world and such in my background. But you can speak to it better. But you don't just roll out updates every month. It ain't like it ain't like the OSs where you can roll out updates on a weekly to monthly basis.
I'm not saying every month, Pete. I'm saying Jesus Christ, once a year.
Some stuff takes 2 years to get through a flight test program.
Yes.
It depends on where it's at in the aircraft and how much of your certification boundary gets impacted by the change. Yep. But yeah, I've saw changes that take 2 years to get rolled out from the time an issue is discovered through patches being developed, tested at subsystem, systems of systems, ground test, flight test, and then a pile of artifacts being produced for a certification change.
And okay, that's fine. At least you're telling me it takes 2 years to put it through the process. But what I'm talking about is it's 2 years and you haven't even started the process.
Yeah, if somebody's had a patch sitting there that they haven't done anything with and they don't have a certification boundary, then that's a more serious issue.
Well, and here's the sad part, Brian. We're talking specifically avionics. Okay, that has nothing to do with most of these people's corporate networks because they don't have.
Absolutely agree. That's the reason when I jumped on today that I said, hey, I come from a really different place than most people work in cyber.
That's true. Cool. That's true, JP, except that you also have a lot of, and this is something that you and I have seen for a long time, JP, and that is like Cisco routers that are running 10-year-old OSs. You know, because they're afraid to update the firmware because it's going to break their appliance.
Just out of curiosity for those working in the aviation industry, when there is some type of vulnerability that's discovered and, you know, or for whatever reason, it's become apparent that a patch or something needs to be rolled out and they're subject to these 2-year pipelines to do so. Is there any process or mechanism that exists to expedite these approvals? Kind of similar to how they did with I hate to use this example, but it's the only recent one I can think of with COVID, how the vaccines weren't quote unquote FDA approved, but they just did an emergency magic wand wave and said, okay, send this out. So is there any mechanism for that in aviation? Because I can understand that there necessarily shouldn't be, because you know there's a lot at stake. You know, if something happens with an aircraft or something like that, there are people in the air and there are people on the ground who can suffer consequences. So and this is just curiosity.
Yeah. So you remember 737 Max? That's not a cyber problem, but that is a very good example of updating a safety critical system. When it became apparent that the 737 Max had a very large issue that was software related, they grounded the entire fleet for a year and a half, almost 2 years. because that's how long it takes to get through to actually getting a patch rolled out and accepted and reestablishing airworthiness. So if it was a cyber problem that would have caused that, it would not have changed that time frame. And yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar issue when you when you have that many aircraft on the ground. But in the end, if you can't do anything else, what you do is ground the fleet.
Yeah, and honestly, thank God that they did that. You know what I mean? But um, if anybody's ever heard the old saying, "Hurry up and wait," right? That's exactly kind of what we're talking about here and what Brian's talking about, right? When it comes to government, the bureaucracy and everything else that it takes to get things through is just absolutely, it's asinine, to be honest. It's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that these things shouldn't be tested and everything else, and that they shouldn't be, that I mean, people's lives are in danger here, right? And that's not what I'm trying to say. But again, you're talking about the government. He mentioned organizations, FAA. You're talking. So you're talking about something that moves like grass grows. Honestly, probably slower, right? And one thing that I did want to mention is that Brian, I don't, I know you're saying that you come from a different place, but honestly, you have more in common with the critical infrastructure folks and even healthcare than I think you might even believe, right? Or think.
Oh no, no, no. I'm tracking that. And to be honest, I only swapped over to truly being full-time cyber 2.5 years ago. But I'd had enough adjacent activity next to cyber. My primary job for 20 years has been integration of aircraft mission systems, most of which, a lot of which had classified aspects. So I've spent a lot more time with folks like the NSA than I have folks like the FAA. Yes, the government moves slow. Matter of fact, FAA is fast compared to some other agencies.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of those three-letter agencies that don't like to be named. I come from the IC community or the IC space as well, right? So
Understand it well.
yeah, so I mean, you're absolutely correct. Like I said, I'm by no means am I saying that that we should just throw things out there blindly. Again, people's lives depend on this. But again, to I believe it was Ron that asked the question, and if not, I apologize. But again, I think that there has to be a better way, a more efficient way, an emergency process, if you will, right? That comes along with that, right?
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, is one of the things that with the guy that at least DoD for aircraft is struggling with, and they know they have to do. When you look at who the adversary is for cyber, if you're developing a new aircraft, the adversary is a nation state. You're going to have things that pop up. You're going to have to get them fixed, and you're going to have to do it rapidly. But is industry and the government still trying to figure out, okay, how do we do those impact assessments where we can do the minimum amount of testing and roll that out fast? And that's never going to be an easy task.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good
sorry, I
perspective.
was on.
I appreciate y'all taking the time to answer that and just kind of give an idea. This is my first ISC squared meeting, so appreciate y'all throwing the wisdom out for me.
And Ron, what we try to do is basically teach folks, because everybody that's over 40 here, we're tired, we've been beat up, and we're just trying to pass a little knowledge on to let folks know this is what's happening, because you're not going to get it in mainstream media. Well, go ahead, Michael. You still haven't finished talking about all of the crap that's on the commercial flights and the bad systems. I'm sorry, Brian. Brian, go ahead and finish talking about the systems.
Nah, I think we had enough of talk about that one.
All right, well, I'm going to press you.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of issues out there that were very bespoke to systems that really, unfortunately, can't be talked about in an open audience. But some of those still exist that are behind NDAs, but none that I know of for Bell. Well, I can say that, but I know about stuff that happened to a bunch of other companies.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And what people don't realize is that this holds true for our critical infrastructure as well, right? So we were talking earlier, and we were talking about power grids and things like that.
Yeah. So I can speak to power grids
you know,
a little bit.
There,
My,
you know,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm
My
sorry.
sorry, I'm going cutting you off, but my wife worked for a company that does. They don't do alternative energy sites. They did all the hardware that does grid connection between an alternative energy site and the main grid. And as of 6 years ago, when I was talking to some of those guys, they didn't have a single cyber person working within a company, nor did they have a secure software development plan.
Yeah, absolutely does not surprise me. I mean, I'm just being honest. I mean,
and that's industrial control kind of ICS kind of stuff like you're talking about before. How often does it get patched? How often does it get updated? And how much does it get ignored?
Yep, exactly, right. And how many systems out there are still running on Windows 98 because you can't upgrade the homegrown system that was developed for that, right? I mean, you're absolutely correct. And this kind of bleeds into the internet of things, right? IoT, Ring doorbells and stuff like that. They don't have cybersecurity people working for them. They might now, because it's getting more prevalent, but originally they didn't. And quite honestly, if they do have them, what they've done more than likely is they've taken a developer and then said, "Oh, hey, now you're doing cybersecurity," right? So, these things all kind of blend together is what I'm trying to get at here. This is a bigger issue than just one thing is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and if they have young developers, I don't know, unless computer science courses have changed a lot since I've been there, which has been there a long time ago. How many colleges actually teach secure design rather than just this is how you write software?
Not many, because first of all, most of these organizations don't even start at an algorithm. When I first learned to do programming, the first thing you wrote an algorithm long before you touched the line of code. You didn't even touch a keyboard till you wrote out what the logic was in order to make that program work, because the logic was the whole thing for the program. And also, because now everybody is into agile development, they don't even follow the SDLC and let other organizations within the enterprise know, hey, we might want security to come in and talk about this. Hey, we're going to need the end user to come in and talk about this. What they like to do is have these sprints, which are little 10-minute water cooler talks that nobody's documenting, to say things to each other that need to be noted somewhere before they even release this trash out onto the production network. So we were talking about IoT. In an article on znet.com, and I'll post these in our group in LinkedIn. And if you're not in LinkedIn on the group, please send the invite to us. It is ISC Square Dallas Fort Worth, what grinds my gears. And this is where I throw a lot of this stuff at. 3 new hacking groups are targeting industrial systems. Hacking crews that target industrial systems part of the critical infrastructure umbrella are typically not chasing after ransomware payments. Instead, they typically hack the company to disrupt their operations, cause global disruptions, and or steal sensitive data off the network. A cybersecurity firm has released their 5th annual cyber report, which they provide details of 3 hacking groups that target the industry: Kozlovite, Petrovite, and Etherite. All 3 are skilled groups and they target U.S. entities. Surprise, surprise. Next, FBI stands up a new cryptocurrency unit. In justice.gov, cryptocurrency, say it out loud, as a hot buzzword in the cyber world. As the world increasingly examines migrating currency to the digital dominant and investor consumer turn, cyber criminals have exhibited a lot of interest in crypto, whether or not they're trying to hack into cyber currency accounts or fill their coffers or leverage anonymity that cryptocurrency provides to receive payments from victims on the down low. Criminals often are smarter about cryptocurrency than law enforcement. And now law enforcement officers are chasing them. To combat the threats, the FBI formally stood up a new cryptocurrency unit to tackle the exponential spike in the digital realm. Comments? I think it's a freaking waste of taxpayers' money, but that's just me. Anyone going once? Come on, Ron. Look like you want to say something. Come on.
I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to pay anybody enough to do that kind of work anyway.
Well, I mean, it's a government employee that's going to end up doing it anyway. So we are already fighting the losing battle.
I don't know, the budgets that the government has to work with in order to compensate people that are supposed to be doing work is nowhere near what they would get on the outside, number one. So that they're going to be behind because they're financially outgunned in that regard. And then everybody knows that these APTs and things that are out there, there's just more than that there's just more than they can handle. So I mean, it's nice that they're making an effort, I guess, to say, but I guess we gonna see.
That's the way that everything works, ain't it? You have to take a wait and see effort.
Mhm.
No, I think,
gonna see.
Ron, you're absolutely correct. You know, listen, the government will never be able to keep up with the private sector when it comes to paying someone. And listen, right now, talked about it before with the Great Resignation and stuff like that, right? Everybody's chasing the money right now. And so, honestly, you have to get a special kind of person to want to work in a government setting to begin with. Now you're talking about having a cybersecurity professional that knows that they can go on the outside and make probably 3 times what you're going to pay them, right? You have to, now you're talking about finding a unicorn, honestly, because they have to be more invested in the work that they do, right? And the good that they're doing. They have to believe in that more than they believe in providing for their family, to be perfectly honest, right? So you're absolutely correct. With that, again, it's great that they're, I guess trying, right? But first of all, you're already behind the curve because cryptocurrency has been out, for a while now. And, now what's going to end up happening is that because you can't get the people in, you're going to do what every company does, right? You're going to start throwing more stuff on them. So that cryptocurrency unit, they're going to start out learning about cryptocurrency all they can. But what's going to happen is that you're going to start getting everything else thrown on you. Oh, we need you to do log monitoring. We need you to set up our SIM. We need you to do this, blah, 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 blah. That's the problem, right? It's not that we have a shortage of people in this industry, right? It's that we have a shortage of companies that don't know what they're looking for. They want to throw everything onto cybersecurity when, I don't know how to, I don't know what what to compare it to be perfectly honest, other than, back in the day when you had, desktop support or whatever, right? They told you that you were going to be, answering calls and then forwarding it to other people so that they could fix those problems. And then what ended up happening is that now you're the guy, you're the person that has to sit there and not only listen to this person gripe, about what's going on with their system. But now you got to go and you got to try and fix their system and everything else. So it just, again, you know, the whole do more with less mentality, you know, and honestly, it started in the military, you know, but now it's the private sector as well that's in that mentality. And, you know, again, going back to it, you can't pay someone you know, a wage grade or GS when they know that they could go out and get 2 to 3 times more. So you're absolutely correct.
Also, I like a couple of the points that you were also making, Leon, because where a lot of this goes to, my biggest question, you have a whole cybersecurity unit, okay? I personally feel like that this would be a couple of people within that unit, and that would be their job. So all you're doing is adding to that cybersecurity unit and saying, hey, you two people do nothing but specialize in cryptocurrency, and you don't need to be doing anything else other than cryptocurrency. I mean, that's where I would be going with it.
So you're talking about reallocating existing headcount, not.
Well, no, I mean, augmenting existing headcount. It's BS that you're going to create a whole new unit, okay? That's unnecessary money that you're spending to create this unit. Add people to the cybersecurity units that already exist. Because if you don't know, the FBI cybersecurity unit is here in Dallas. So you need to be adding to that, and you need to be adding to, and there should be nobody in headquarters that's added to this, okay? But what's going to end up happening, you're going to create the cybersecurity unit. You're going to create a special agent for cryptocurrency. You're going to create a special agent in charge for the crypto unit. And most of it's going to be administrative overhead. And the people that you actually need to do it, and you were right about this when you said it, Ron, they're not going to have those, they're not going to have that talent. They're not even going to sub out that talent more than likely. They're going to get some hot shot that just came out of, what's the place that they do training?
Quantico.
No, but it's actually 2 of them. It's Quantico and Glencoe, Georgia, I believe. They're going to be coming out of one of those 2 facilities.
Yeah.
All righty, let us continue. I have fun with this part because all this
Hey,
grind.
real quick, JP.
Go ahead.
Hey, seriously, man, you need to, sorry, but I don't know what browser you're using, but you might want to think about using the reader.
What? I got it in Adobe Reader.
No, what I'm saying is let the program, whatever browser you're using, let it talk. Let it read for you.
Dude, I'm using Adobe Reader. I'm not letting the browser reading. This is more fun for me because I'm skipping over certain ones. All right. Australia warns of potential Russian cyber attacks. How many people didn't already know that? Anyway, as the world watches events unfold in Ukraine, a third country is preparing itself for a potential wave of cyber attacks via Russia's considerable army of computer hackers. We talked about that part earlier also. Today, Australia has echoed the concerns of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom that Russia's leadership could hack Australia's computer networks. The Australian Cybersecurity Center website lists proactive security measures for businesses and government agencies to evaluate, deploy to protect stored data. This is also an article out of ZNet. I'll publish these links so you can read them yourselves. Some of them are actually pretty long articles. I just dumb them down so we can get through them quicker. DHS reports on GCM.com. Attackers are focusing on spear phishing attacks via smartphones. DHS is tracking a spike in spear phishing operations that target smartphones used by federal employees. The interest began in 2020 as part of the, once again, FISMA, as a mobile defense threat solution and part of the parcel of reporting that agencies provide to DHS. Mobile device management, also known as MDM solutions, which we also talked about earlier in this little event are used by government agencies and large corporations to implement and enforce security policies on mobile devices and ensure that the device is compliant to mitigate threats such as spear phishing emails. Ensuring your organization's or company's MDM strategy is solid and properly implemented is increasingly important as bad actors increasingly shift targeting attention to mobile devices. This was also something I felt like was kind of a thing we already knew. Any comments on that?
What I find interesting is I didn't hear you mention anything about training the personnel, and no MDM strategy or device hardening or anything, any spear phishing campaign mitigation measurements that you can institute electronic of any kind is going to be of any use unless the personnel have been trained to recognize when an email is not legitimate or when they are the target.
Ron, I love you.
That's
so
all
much.
it takes.
I love you so much, Ron. Not in a way that I can't say on this recording, but in a way that you understand what we're doing here today. And here's why. Everybody wants that silver bullet, and I'm gonna let Leon go and talk about the silver bullet, but everybody wants the silver bullet. They think that they can go out here on Gartner's Magic Quadrant and find the technology that's just going to stop all the cybersecurity problems when everything comes back to, like you said, the human element. And we have gotten to the point that we are just downright lazy when it comes to one, training people. We don't want to train people anymore. I've heard in so many, and you came in a little bit late, but I'm going to reiterate for everybody else who's online. I'm tired of hearing in all of these different little speeches that executives make when they stand in front of folks at these different conventions and talk about, oh, we don't send our people to training because we don't want to lose them. Well, guess what? If you don't freaking train your people, you got a bunch of dumb people and they won't leave. The reason why you want to train your people, you want to make your folks the best they can actually be to protect your environment. Because guess what? If you get hacked, nobody's going to want to pick you up, except for the executives. Well, you guys know what happens when you get hacked. And that's the type of executive that we want in our organization, someone that can help us through the hard times.
I mean, they're gonna fire somebody. Either they're gonna fire the person who was at the bottom who got victimized because they didn't get trained, or they're gonna fire the CISO because they got hacked, and that's what happens.
Yeah, that's very true.
So somebody's gonna get let go.
Oh yeah, well, depending on how bad the actual hack is, what'll end up happening is the company may not even be there anymore. So guess what? Everybody is technically fired.
In today's job market, they're not firing anybody. How are you going to find a replacement?
Well, you technically fire them if the company no longer exists because they got hacked out of existence.
Before Log4j, what was it? It was SolarWinds. Didn't they try to throw the intern under the bus?
Man, all these companies try to throw somebody under the bus.
They tried to throw the intern under the bus.
That was their ex-CEO, and I will admit that I can only say a little bit about this, but I was actually their auditor, SolarWinds, at the time that whole shit went down. So I got a pretty interesting view of that.
Oh my.
Look,
my.
Can you go through that as much as you're not under NDA to reveal?
I can point you to what is probably the best interview where the lawyer that kind of ran that whole thing.
Can you pull that up real quick and give us a quick overview? I have no knowledge of. Oh, look at that. Read it to us, Scott. Read it to us. This is some nice stuff. Oh, it's NPR at that? Fantastic.
I mean, essentially, you know, the attack that occurred to them centered around their continuous integration, continuous deployment build pipeline. And through a breach of that, they were able to inject code into the build for the executables that were sent out to customers to update certain products. And, you know, obviously that injection of the code was a backdoor that then got installed at, you know, thousands of their customers. That's the high level gist of it. But like I said, I'm under an NDA. This article that I posted here is an interview with the lawyer that basically oversaw the breach response. And this is about as much detail as you're going to get legally disclosed.
Fantastic. Because I did want to hear the shakeout of all of this, because people have been very, very quiet about this thing. You know, usually somebody snitches on somebody after something like that happens. And I think it was Ron that was talking, you know, they usually throw somebody under the bus. And I do vaguely remember they put it all on the intern, which I felt like, you know what, that is some straight garbage. Because if an intern got that much power in your infrastructure, it's probably a problem with your infrastructure more than anything else.
Well, and people went off talking about like the password 123 whatever that gets thrown out there that they were using. Like that was really just a public FTP site to download like trial versions of their software. Like there wasn't, the password was only there to make sure that you had to register and give them your email. It wasn't really to protect anything. So people make a big deal out of that, and it really wasn't anything.
All righty. Let me also announce that too. Our inside of the group LinkedIn page, there was a invitation for us to attend the cybersecurity summit that was supposed to be going on today. Because of the cold weather, and I'm ashamed to even say that, but because of the cold weather, it has been postponed to March 19th. However, we still get the discount code if we wanted to do it online. I think it's $99 to attend online or attend period, and we get a discount code. Which is ISC to DFW, and it knocks $100 off of the cost of it. So I'll make sure that I'll post that out there too, along with these little
which makes it the virtual free. And if you've already registered, your registration is carried over to the 11th.
Well, look at you with all that handy dandy information, Pete. And don't worry about.
I was already registered because I figured I just have both of them up.
Exactly. I was going to do the exact same thing. Now, let me go ahead and tell everybody this online. I don't know how new you are to this. I'm not paying attention to the numbers, and I don't know where IC squared. I'm going to assume that Brian North, you're probably one of the newest CISSPs on there just by your number. But one of the things that we do, we typically have 2 meetings every month, which means if you attend all of the meetings, you don't have to. Well, I'm not going to say that on this while it's being recorded. What I'm saying is though that if you attend all the meetings online, that means you have a possibility for 48 credits in the calendar year. The reason why this is a big deal, you have to have at least 40 every calendar year in order to keep your credits the way it should be. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because guess what? More than likely, you're not going to be able to go to any of these little events like Black Hat, what else? B-Sides in LA. I mean, Vegas.
DEF CON.
Oh yeah, especially DEF CON. I love DEF CON for one reason. whatever happens at DEF CON, it takes 3 years before it makes it over to Black Hat. Yeah, at least that's what I've experienced. Anybody experienced anything different in the newer versions of DEF CON? Do tell. Excuse me, newer versions of Black Hat, do tell. Leon, did you attend both the last time you went to Black Hat?
Yeah, I attended both. I mean,
How up to date was the information that they were giving at Black Hat?
no, you're right. I mean, DEF CON, you go to DEF CON if you want information, and if you want, you know, the technical side of things and everything else. If you want, you know, if you want vendor presentations and swag, you go to Black Hat. Honestly, I mean, the briefings at Black Hat have gotten to the point where it's essentially just, you know, hey, we've got a new tool. We think it's great because it, you know, it's the APT ender, right? And here it is. That's, I mean, so Black Hat's become way more vendor focused, whereas DEF CON is where you go to get all the technical information and stuff like that. You know, to be honest, it's also where you find more people that lack the social skills, as Bobby Boucher's mom would say. So,
how many folks do we have on here that's also a member of InfraGard? Because I suggested everybody that's here become a member of InfraGard. You don't have to join the local chapter unless you really want to. But the thing that InfraGard gives you, all of this scary stuff that I've been reading, this is just from one of what's known as the daily, the Cyber Shield. It usually comes out daily with a whole bunch of things that grind my gears. And the purpose of it is to just give you information that is not being posted or hosted or reported in mainstream media. Who do we have on board that can back me up on this? That's also a member of InfraGard.
Yep, it's great. And what the heck, for the local chapter, it's worth the $20.
All right, real quick, let me ask, what certs do we have represented online? And where are people at as far as their CPEs for the year, and what do they need for the year?
Hey, this is Mike. Last year during all the lockdown and everything, I got way behind in CPEs. And so we are pounding it, you know, signing up for every type of fraud conference or whatever that I can get into. And yep, JP, welcome. I'm back, you know, looking for more CPEs.
Well, guess what we got for you guys? So the reason why you see this on a Zoom meeting is so I can record these things and stick them out on our YouTube channel so people can go and listen at these things at their leisure. Okay, because last month we had Sanomi and we had Fluency. So that's recorded, and that's actually about 3.5 hours of demos and discussion like this on it. It's already recorded. Also, we have What Grinds My Gears on another one of our YouTube channels. I'll post those out on YouTube. This will be loaded up. So your friends that also need CPEs that have some type of ISC square certification, they can go out and listen to this. The reason why I'm telling you this, like I said before, it's going to be difficult for folks to attend non-online meetings this year because I don't know if anybody knows this. Leon, talk about that whole thing that was going on about you had to have your, what is it, vaccination card to attend the Cybersecurity Summit.
yeah, I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, people need to know.
Let's just say that I guess there was and I don't know the story, right? I just saw what I saw on LinkedIn. I guess there was a misunderstanding between the conference and the people that were supposed to attend, and I guess the conference wanted people. I didn't get the message, but some people did, I guess, where the conference wanted you to show proof that you had been vaccinated when you showed up for the conference in person. So, regardless of what you guys, the only thing I'll say about that is, regardless of your opinion on vaccinations and everything else, right? A conference asking you for that information, I would be very weary of that. Number one, that's a HIPAA violation to ask you for that information. And then two, because it is a conference, just me being me and putting my tin hat on and being paranoid, that now puts me in a category where I get put into an Excel spreadsheet, right, that says, Leon is vaccinated or not vaccinated. And then that information gets sold to vendor A or company X or whatever, right? So now that's my personal information out there, even more so than my name and my email and where I work and everything else. So, I would just say that to be careful of that if somebody's asking you for that. But yeah, I guess there was a misunderstanding, and that's what it was. They were asking for proof of vaccination, and that wasn't mentioned when you registered.
Okay. All right. I'm looking in the FBI reports, of course, and we're going to continue with what grinds our gears. There's a threat assessment from an FBI report, and let's go with that. This is the reason why I just can't let some of this stuff go through the way you were talking about, Leon. This is coming from multiple sources. But we can talk about that offline. All right, but this is unclassified, and we can all talk about that. There's a key finding from the FBI, DHS, the Secret Service, and the Capitol Police. There is a unaffiliated lone offender, an excess of domestic violent extremist threat. Okay, I don't know, this sounds like some January 6th stuff. Let's skip the politics. I want to get out of this one. Not really feeling that one. All right, let's see. Scammers exploit security weaknesses on job recruiting sites from the FBI. I think this one has been talked about ad nauseum, maybe not. Anybody heard of that? Anyway, the FBI warns that malicious actors or scammers continue to exploit security weaknesses on job recruitment websites to post fraudulent job postings in order to trick applicants in providing personal information or money. These scammers lend credibility to their scheme by using legitimate information to intimate businesses, threatening reputation harm for the business and financial loss for the job seeker. Since early 2019, the average report loss from these schemes is nearly $3,000 per victim, and many victims also report that the scheme negatively affected their credit scores. All right, the only thing I can probably say to that is if somebody's asking you for money, other than to fix your sad resume, you probably want to look at the source. Also, for anybody that's online that's looking for a position currently, you can send it and I'll put it, you can send your resume and I'll put it down in the chat. careers@isc2dfw.org. We have an association with a couple of real actual recruiters at a couple of different companies that we're sending the resumes to see if they can take your resume and hopefully it matches up to something that folks are looking for. Not making any promises. There's no magic behind this. It is what it is. We're just trying to be helpful to folks in the chapter. Comments, issues, anything else? Y'all a quiet little bunch today. Oh, thank you, Leon. You got it for me already. You must have known my typing is horrible.
JP, it's Mike. I'd like to make a couple of comments off of the whole collage of all of the conversation. And it's whenever we were getting down to the human element. And yeah, and so for us, our practitioners and what we do, you know, how do we have accountability in today's workforce? You know, it's hard to find people that'll take the jobs, or if you find them, like say they're wanting large amounts of money, and to be able to for me, accountability is like an obligation, you know, and I don't want to get philosophical on it and stuff, but I think we in this group here, what we do and the way we do it is that we've already, you know, have accountability for our work and our job, but get people in. And you're talking about training, you know, hey, we went through this training. Don't click the link. Okay. Right after that, InfoSec sent out the phishing scams. It was amazing how many people clicked the link. Just had the training. Hour later, they sent out the test, and yeah, they do it.
Well,
So,
Cofense has a statistic that says even after training, 4% of the people still click on the link. So, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of stupidity to this whole little thing.
But I mean, it's kind of to your point, right, Mike?
Thank you. Go pick it up, Leon, because I was commenting on a lot of what you were saying. No, in a good way.
I appreciate that, but no, I mean, honestly, I think, right, one of the things that we have to do as practitioners is, you know, when you talk about accountability and stuff like that, right, it's a hard one. It honestly is, right? Back, you know, look, when we were in the military, you know, when I was in the military, accountability was easy, right? You either did it or you went to jail. Is pretty much what it was, right? But you know, I think us as practitioners, we have to look at things differently now, right? We need to start, and I hate to do this, right? Because quite honestly, so much is thrown on us already. But you know, honestly, I think that some of us would benefit from, you know, courses in psychology and things like that, right? Because you know, like you said, an hour later they click the link again, right? Well, what made them click that link? We have to start looking at the psychology of things, right? Why does someone do the things that they do? And then, you know, I think if we do that and, you know, we try to come at this at a different perspective, you know, of, you know, not treating a user as an idiot. You know, listen, I know that's hard to do because, you know, you're frustrated and, you know, they just clicked the link right after they did the security training, right? The problem is, one, our security training sucks. It's boring. It's dry, right? And quite honestly, nobody cares about security. So we have to try and do some reverse psychology, if you will, and make it to where they do care about security. So how do you do that? And, you know, I don't know the foolproof answer to that. You know what I mean? The only thing I can say is that one of the things that I do is, you know, I make jokes all the time. I like making people laugh, first of all, right? And second of all, I think it puts people at ease. And then maybe they don't, you know, maybe they don't look at the 6'4" guy that has the long goatee that's already coming to them saying, "Thou shalt not," you know, right? And so, you know, I think there's a psychological aspect to it. And I think that as security practitioners, we need to start looking at people as people, right? And, you know, what makes me stop, you know, and not click that link, you know? I mean, I think we need to start asking questions like that, right? I just, you know, again, I think that we need to start looking at things differently. You know, I don't really have an answer to your question, honestly. I just think that that's, you know, maybe the process that we should look at going forward.
And Michael, let me add something else to it that Leon did skip. I personally believe we need to stop doing this annual training. I think it needs to be at least once a quarter. Because guess what? People forget, especially if the only time you give them training is in October for Awareness Month, and think that they're going to remember over the course of the year. Oh yeah, don't click that link. And what's beautiful, every time you hear about somebody's adventures in their environment, clicking on that link, it's a new way that they come at folks. And one of the latest things that I found out about the phishing ones, they're now offering folks, you know, $150 Amazon cards, $150 PayPal cards, stuff like that. They're changing up the messages. So now it's fresh enough that the users are confused on, well, I didn't click on that link you told me not to click. I clicked on this. So you gotta have to, you kind of have to stay diligent if you're a company, and let the people know that there are different ways that they're going to be approached in terms of these email messages that folks are clicking on. Because I know folks out there that want that $150 Target card.
You know, we provide on a monthly basis to all of our customers. We remind them about not opening attachments and not opening or not clicking on the links. But also we remind them that a couple other things. All of our customers are small businesses. And one of the things that we help the management remember is that if you click on that link, you may not have a job tomorrow because your business will be out of business. And that's something that tends to sit home with, especially with a lot of entrepreneurs, is they say, you know, we really need to be more careful about this. But the other thing that we do is that if you get an email that you think might be legitimate, don't think it might be legitimate. Call the person. Don't call the number on the email. Call the person directly. And if you can't get through to them, don't open the email. Don't click on the link, because if you can't get through to them, somebody knows that person is out of the office.
Yeah.
And that does sit, and we do, but we do it on a monthly basis. We do the reminders on a monthly basis.
And you know what, to be honest with you, that's probably the best way to do it. Unfortunately, your larger organization is going to say, screw you, hippie. That's time that you're taking away from people actually doing work. And unfortunately, everything comes down to, hey, I need to have my folks making money for me. But you make another strong point. Some folks click on the wrong link, and next thing you know, you got ransomware running rampant throughout the organization. Kiki,
Hey,
I
JP.
didn't hear a word from you today. Yes, who was that?
That was Chip. Still is Chip, in fact.
Hey, Chip.
Hey, the studies out of organizational behavior have shown that the best way to remind people of the best frequency is actually every 6 months instead of every month. So
Really?
just a thought. Yeah. Not 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 weeks instead
6
of every
weeks.
4
Wow.
weeks. Yeah.
I was going to agree with the monthly thing, because people will become blind to it after a while. You know, it's just not of interest to look at. Oh, it's that same email, that same.
We combine them also. We combine it with this is also what got patched this last Tuesday from Microsoft and everybody else. why it's important that things get updated and stuff like that. So we're sort of keeping that entire security thing in front of them every month, and it does make a difference. We have an extremely low occurrence of people making the mistake, shall we say.
Yeah,
and-
all I'm
and-
doing is reporting with what the OB studies show. And
Yeah,
I think what happens
absolutely,
is
Chuck.
every month, when you do it every month, it just becomes standard in people's heads. Where if you do it every 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks, it's like, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
sort of out of sequence, right?
Yeah, and so, Pete, I know that you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses, stuff like that, right? So you're absolutely correct, right? If you tell someone, hey, look, if you click on the wrong link, your business might go away, right? That resonates with them. Absolutely, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about the psychological aspect of this, right?
Yeah.
So
You have to target your audience.
Yeah, there's an old saying called read the room, right? And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? So listen, we in this industry and in our corporate world, we have quite honestly, we have a lot of people who like to play games, right? We have a lot of gamers, right? Whether it be console, PC, whatever, right? So maybe think about making a game out of this, right? Where if someone reports something to security that says, hey, this is a phishing email or whatever, right? Then you make a game board out of it. You make a leaderboard or whatever, Peloton board, whatever you want to call it, right? That goes in the corporate directory or whatever, and they get points, right? And then every month or whatever, then they might win a prize or whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll get that $150 Target card. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
positive feedback definitely does help.
yeah,
Our organization recently, actually for a while now, is when you successfully, report that email, there's a response email that comes back and at least says, "Hey, you did a good job."
What the
More carrot,
associate
less
was
stick.
talking
I
about a while
like it.
ago is a real thing. It's called gamification. And so you can Google it up. There's all types of games. Of course, I tried to propose that to my management. You get your reports in on time, you get a point, you do this or do that. But hey, also I put management in it. You review my work within the day that you said you'll do it, I'll give you a point. Well, no. So gamification, Google that one up. It's interesting read.
yeah, no, that's all I'm talking about. Like I said, I think certain things work for certain people. Some people, they, again, some people learn by doing. Some people learn by watching. Some people learn by hearing, right? And I think that we need to be cognizant of that as practitioners, and we need to try to do the things that we can do to help that along, right? And if we constantly sit here and bang our head and go, God, why do they continually click on those links? They're such idiots, right? That does nothing for it honestly does nothing for them, and it does nothing for us but give us heart attacks and strokes, and things like that. So it just makes our lives harder, right? So, that's the only thing I'm saying. Maybe, the gamification, it's actually turning into a big thing within corporations now. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe it's not, right? Again, maybe, with Pete, right? You give the email that says, hey, you click on the wrong link, your corporation goes bye-bye, right? Maybe that's the way, it's just, again, you got to read the room.
It depends on the audience. Absolutely. I've got one business owner that probably about once every 2-3 months, he'll call and say, my system's got, your system is infected, yada, yada, yada type of thing. And we have the ability to go in and kill the browser in the background, which is 99% of these things. They're not actually any infection other than just locking up their system. But one of his comments, he's finally starting to learn. He said, "What did I click on? Where did I go? Because I didn't think I was going any place that was bad." He was clicking off of probably an MSN site or, you know, CNN or whatever. And it's just a reminder to him that, you know, hey, even these things that seem like they're maybe okay aren't. But he's finally starting to get the idea that it's not just that I want you to fix it. I want to know what I did so that I don't do it again. And that's a nice breakthrough.
I'm liking hearing all of this discussion because the only way we all get better is if we let every one of us know what's out there. You know, because Kiki, I don't know where you're at, and Andrea, you haven't said peep either. You didn't say, you know what, screw you guys. I don't want to talk or anything. And I like to get everybody's opinion on these things because I learn from you guys too, especially when you're in a different environment like Brian. I don't think they're sitting at their desk.
Oh, they just got you on mute.
They don't have me on mute. They're also muted themselves. Anyway, let's see what else. It's after 3, so
I'm sorry. Actually, I was sitting at my desk.
I am too. What's going on?
Tiffany, I look. I ain't gotta ask you to talk because I know you're gonna talk regardless. I was just trying to get Kiki and Andrea to say something or comment on anything that we've talked about.
Oh, hey Kiki, go ahead.
Hey, how are you? Actually, I have enjoyed everything, even though I came in late because I was actually learning new stuff. As stated last meeting, I am just now learning to do SOC stuff as far as the job is concerned. We actually have been doing phishing tests here within the company. And I was just laughing because as one guy mentioned, as we look at a lot of things that they click on, we be calling it, some of them call them idiots because like, why did you click on it? Just as common sense. But I'm just learning, just listening and learning from what y'all are explaining because a lot of things is going on that y'all are talking about is actually inside the current company that I'm currently in right now that I see. So
yes, and please don't say your company name because
yeah, oh no, I'm not.
we don't need the legal liability.
Oh no, you good.
Thank you. Andrea, hi. You haven't said anything either. Michael, you didn't say anything to my knowledge. I think Charles chimed in the beginning. I didn't see Mark today either. Is there anything that anybody needs from me before we close this up for the day? Oh, look, Michael turned off his mic. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
All right. I'm probably the person in the room with the least experience out of everyone. I'm actually currently in school at Tarrant County Community College, doing the IT cybersecurity associate's degree.
So do you have Irvin as a teacher, or do you have Scott Schindler?
No, I'm actually at the campus, Southeast campus. So my main professor is Professor James Dang. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I don't know.
But this is my first meeting. I found you guys on the Meetup app, and I'm one of those hands-on learners, and I have been trying to get into some of the local groups here. And as someone mentioned earlier, they want you to have proof of vaccination, so that kind of hindered me. But I'm just signing up for any and everything. I'm trying to figure out my path, my direction. I'm just
Michael,
trying to retain as much information as I can to figure out.
To let you know before you go any further, Michael.
Yes, sir.
I need proof of your polio vaccination, okay? Because I don't know about anybody else online, but I've been feeling a little poly lately, okay?
I'll be sure to email it over to you.
Okay, yeah. And then what I want you to do, I want you to take your driver's license, your social security number, and your polio vaccination card, copy all of them, put it in a PDF and text it to me. So everybody that's sniffing for SMS can actually see that in clear text coming over.
Was the polio the one that left the 4 little dots on your arm, or was that smallpox?
That was
I think it might be
smallpox.
smallpox.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
back in the day, I got both of them. So
Right. So everybody that's over 40, what they used to do when you were in kindergarten, they used to take this little thing that looked like a circle with a bunch of needles on it, and then they just stuck it in your arm a couple of times, and then you were vaccinated, and that crap would scab up. And then a couple of days later, that scab would drop off. And usually, if it dropped off in bed, you almost swallowed it. It was horrible.
Hey, JP, don't forget everybody had it then had to go to the military later, got it again.
Oh, yeah, the hypodermic needle, that was a beautiful thing. So for those of you, close your eyes and imagine you're standing in line and you hear this hypodermic gun. So what happens is they line up a few healthcare technicians and they stagger them, some on the left side, some on the right side, as you go through 2 shots on your left arm, 2 shots on your right arm. And they take this gun that looks like something that they use to take the lug nuts off of your tires. And they stick it in your arm. Now, for those of you who've never seen me up close, my arms are not that big. And at the time I was in the military, I think when I first got in, I was probably 113 pounds soaking wet. So you can imagine.
You moved, didn't you?
Hell no, I ain't no punk. I did not move. Okay. However, when that thing hit me, that gun shot in, and that thing moved me. But so what Leon is referring to, if you move, that needle has a tendency to tear into your tendons and you will bleed like nobody's business. And if you've ever seen that and you get faint at the sight of blood, you just have a hot mess going on because you have people fainting because they don't want to see the blood and they've actually seen the blood and then they fall down, in which case, because you're looking up as you're walking, you trip over them. It's just the whole thing. It's funny though. It's a funny thing. Oh, Michael, welcome. You are invited to show up here at any time. Any of your little friends that want to go in and do this with us, please come in. This one was a little bit different than what we usually do. What we usually do, we have a vendor come in and explain some technology related to security. And if you give me your email address, we'll pass on the, what do you call that silly thing, the YouTube channel, so you can go back and look at our one from last month. We just started recording these things because I now no longer feel the need to be amongst people. I'm becoming your typical IT person. I don't want to be around people, even though I do wash. I wash on a regular basis, but I don't want to be around IT folks. Man, I'm gonna get canceled before the end of this year. I feel it coming. Feel like the weekend. I feel it coming.
Okay, well, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn and I'll send you my email. I think signing up for this, I don't know if you if it sends you my email for the Zoom link. Do you capture that information?
Does it do that, Tiffany? She ain't listening. But anyway.
Hey, what's up? Sorry about that.
Michael said that the actual sign up sends his email. Does it send it? Do you have access to it?
The sign up, the meetup sign? No, I don't know what y'all are talking about. The meetup.
That's what I'm saying. Does the meetup sign up track his email address when he signs up?
So in order for me to get the Zoom link, I had to put my name and my email.
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Let me look.
All right, Michael, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll do it that way. And
Okay.
like I said, you can invite all the kids from school that's in your program to do it. We're looking to infuse some fresh blood so we can tease all y'all little Gen X's. Wait a minute. I'm sorry, not Gen X's, Gen Z's. Are you Gen Z, Michael? I don't know.
I don't know either.
How old are you, Michael?
I'm 27.
JP,
yep.
JP, you can't talk. Yeah, not allowed to talk about people being snowflakes. I've been told that.
No, I'm not gonna call them snowflakes. I'm gonna call them wet behind the ears.
Well,
and you the
like
person on here, I think, Michael, we're gonna tease the heck out of you. Unless Andre ever come back to her microphone and tell me she's younger than 27.
Well, JP, I would like to say this. I did enjoy today's meeting when you guys were kind of scrutinize and different things, as your career progress. I did enjoy the conversation today.
Well, good. We aim to entertain and teach.
I appreciate it.
More so to teach than to entertain. Oh, look, we're
Hey.
looking all wintry.
It's cold. I took off the professional sweater and stuff because, that's not how we go to work here.
All right. So also, this will be posted in a couple of days. Let your brethren who weren't able to show up. And Michael, I will make sure you also get a link for the YouTube pages. So you got What Grinds My Gears, which there's an hour-long one there that'll give you a credit. Unfortunately, if you look at it after we originally did it, which means it was posted on YouTube, you got to put in your own CPEs yourself. If you do it live, like what we got going on now, you get that one. Tiffany, the one from last Saturday doesn't have a cyber spin to it, so I can't post that up. And
last Saturday?
Yeah, the 19th.
Danny works for Slack. Is that not a, wait, no, it's not a cyber company, my bad.
Well, no, it is a cyber company. Here's the problem.
Is it? It's a collaboration,
well, kind of, sort of. It's IT, so I go ahead and let it go. But here's the thing. We didn't talk totally about technology. So under the guidelines of ISC Square, yes, believe it or not, I actually read that garbage. But anyway, under the guidelines of ISC Square, I can't grant CPEs under that. Even though we had this nice free form talk, it was in the guidelines of security. So you can be granted at this point, it's over 2 hours and 15 minutes. You will get, well, you know what?
It's almost 2.5.
Right. If everybody can hang on to 320, I can grant 2.5 hours for this.
I got 2 more minutes.
Look, everybody that's short of CP, heck yeah, I got 2 minutes.
Why not? Okay.
Look, so let me add on one more thing.
Bring up the Jeopardy music.
No, I actually got information I can pass on. This is cool. This one actually scared the bejeebers out of me, and it takes a lot to scare me because previously hardened systems targeted for risk for hidden camera intrusion. The FBI's Oklahoma field office, do we trust that? Anyway, no, I'm just teasing. In coordination with the FBI's Office of Private Sector, prepare this academia engagement report to alert partners in education and community centers of emerging technologies which may be exploited to target child care and youth production, sexual abuse materials using hidden cameras. Okay, so let me explain this real quick, okay? In my church, we have to have cameras on, up and running and recording. And the reason why is these cameras, if any incident should happen, somebody goes crazy and beats the crap out of a child, we can actually show what happened at the time of the event, okay? Now, where this should worry you at, and this bothers me, because this is one of the things that really grinds my gears. And I would like to castrate a whole bunch of folks because we have a problem that for the most part goes totally ignored in this country. And that's these sexual predators. Okay. So the sheer fact that this is going on, and the highest we can get this is the Oklahoma City field office. Yes, it does bother me. Now, I do know that InfoGuard is a nationwide organization, but I feel like this is one of the things that should be coming from headquarters. And I feel like that we should be going after these offenders because I'm quite sure the FBI has a list of IP addresses that have been targeting these daycare facilities.
Is it the actual, you know what I was thinking? That maybe the daycare facilities had to have a certain or a specific software to use to monitor the kids, and that's how they got in. But they're specifically looking for childcare centers and then trying to get into whatever system they have.
Well, what's even worse about this, supposedly these systems have been hardened.
So it is a specific application or software that they have to use.
Well, the article doesn't say that.
There's not.
So they're
Okay.
just, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's not. So, hey, JP, seriously, send me that that link or whatever, because I need to tell my wife about that, because that's
What they're looking for, most of these camera systems, the people want to be able to view them off site, and when they do, they open up a port, and then all bets are off as far as how hardened they really are. Yeah, okay, I have to use a password to get it to hook up to the camera feed. Well, how
So-
easy is it to brute force a password?
So same typical minimal protection IoT system that, that somebody bridges out to the internet.
Thank you, Brian,
Yep.
because that's one of the things that the report says towards the end.
It says what, JP?
Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can download it and put it into put the PDF into the chat.
Wow, that's really interesting. So I guess
What color is it?
do they look up like these daycare centers and then they scan, like go somewhere near and try to scan to get on their network? Or do they have some type of list that knows, what their open IPs are and stuff?
They're looking for an open port.
Okay.
They're looking for an open port. Sometimes they'll know sometimes they'll be able to find out by proximity, but a lot of times they're just looking for open port.
And I'm sure there's somebody out on dark web that's selling lists of open ports for cameras that show up someplace too.
Well, yeah, and I mean, honestly, all you have to do is go to Shodan.io, and it'll give you a list of open cameras.
Yeah.
And you can go and you can view them on Shodan.
Yeah, this is an immensely pervasive problem that is technology enabled.
Dang, Charles coming in strong. Thank you, man.
We should have.
This is one of my pet peeves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and so when I say what grinds my gears, it really means what pisses me the heck off, okay? In a nice way. For some reason, people get perturbed by the word pissed. Go ahead, what were you saying, Tiffany?
Well, it sort of reminds me. So Tony McLaughlin, he's a database engineer at LinkedIn. He's one of our group members. He did a presentation about sort of protecting your kids online, because he has a program where they go to middle schools to try to teach, teachers and the students how to protect themselves online, even elementary school.
Actually,
I
we
wonder
have
if you
that
ever
on
thought
ISC
about
Square on the
Yeah.
national chapter. They have a whole program. I think it's called Secure Online. And
Yeah.
also one of our members, Darren Toussaint, she actually teaches that around the DFW area. That is one of the things that she does on a regular basis. So she teaches basically Girl Scouts, schools, or whoever have her the secure online thing. If you need that, Tiffany, I will post that also in our LinkedIn group. And Mike, when you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll make sure that you get that information. That's free information to everybody, whether you're a member of ISC Square or not. And also, so you'll know, you don't have to be certified, once again, to be a member of this chapter. And I'm not taking any chapter dues or anything like that, because I don't know what you would be paying for with chapter dues. The national organization never made that clear to me. So until we actually get some cool stuff that's sitting out there on the website and things of that nature, don't worry about it.
Okay, simple.
And besides that, I like to make national perturbed at me.
Hey, JP, you
Yes.
told me before that people don't have to be certified to be part of this chapter, but you did say they have to be certifiable.
Well, yeah, you got to be crazy to be in IT, and that's proof of showing up.
That's right.
You've heard this.
Hey,
This
JP.
is fun. What are y'all talking about? This is great. This is so much fun.
Hey, JP.
Yes.
Hey, I meant to ask a question earlier when we talk about the recordings. I believe 2 meetings ago, there was a discussion regarding, there was a presentation on